Good evening, everybody.
Kavod Haraf, how are you?
Okay, so we got a new chapter. It says Natur, ויען כי אירע הנס בנרות תקנוע להדליק נרות בכל לילה. אירע הנס וצריך כל אדם להיזהר בהן מאוד. So he says that you have to be very careful about lighting the Chanuka candles. What does that mean? Make sure you do it, right? Make sure you don't lose this mitzvah. It's a precious mitzvah. Don't lose it. בכל לילה, every night, כדי להזכיר הנס, in order to commemorate the miracle. וצריך כל אדם להיזהר בהן. So each person has to be careful about that. מאוד, very careful. ואפילו עני המתפרנס מן הצדקה. Even if he's poor, שואל או מוכר. So even if he's poor, he should borrow money or sell something in order to כסותו, to sell his clothing. Can you imagine? In order to do the mitzvah, כסותו. ולוקח שמן להדליק באיזה... Baruch Hashem, today, everybody has money to buy candles, no big deal. But in those days, people were really poor. So you had to really scrounge out the money in order to do this mitzvah. That's what he's trying to tell you. יהיה לו בנים תלמיד חכם, והזהירים בהם. So he says, if you're careful about this mitzvah, you have children that are Torah scholars. That's the reward that you get. וכמה נרות הם בלילה אחד? מדליק אחד. How many candles do we do? First night we do one candle. מכאן ואילך מוסיף והולך. And then from there he goes on and adds, right, every night. והוולד הולך. אחד בכל לילה, you add one each night. עד שבאחרונה, until the last night, which is the 8th night, as we said before, you שמונה. It's going to be eight candles altogether. ואפילו אם רבים בני הבית. And even if you have like lots of family members, לא יעשה יותר, don't do more than 8, he says, right? So, meaning what? That don't now start making your own numbers, yeah, well, I'll do 16, whatever. What 16? Do 8. Do like the sages decreed, right? Don't play games. Okay, that's what he's trying to say. ואפילו אם רבים בני בית, נר אחד לא בית פיות עולה בשביל... So, okay, now he goes into something else. So we'll do Bet Yosef meanwhile. And then we'll come back to this later on. So it says here in Bet Yosef that regarding that which we said, that you have to commemorate the miracle by lighting each candle. Pashut, this is the Pashut, right? It's obvious. Perek Bamim Adlikin in the Gemara there, in Shabbat, as we mentioned. But Tzarich Kol Adam Lizaher Behem Meod. Each person has to be careful. Says regarding this Rambam, Ken Katav Rambam, V'chen HaRava Magid. Also, these rabbis, Dehainu Midetanan, where we learn this from the Mishnah, it says the Perek Arbe Psachim, over there in Psachim, Tzadik Tet Amud Bet, she'afilu ani shebeYisrael lo yifchatu lo me'arba kosot shel yain. Right. So there also it says regarding the laws of Pesach that even if you're poor, you shouldn't do less than 4 cups of wine, right? During Pesach, same thing over here, right? You got to do every night, even if the person is poor, God forbid. שאפילו אני שבישראל יפחתו ב4 כוסות של יין וטעמה משום דפרסום בניסה. So he says the reason is because of publicizing the miracle. This is the reason why you have to be very careful about doing this mitzvah. Okay, so then he goes on, והזהיר בהן יהיו לו בנים תלמידי חכמים. As we said, if you're careful, you have children who are Torah scholars, בפרק במה מדליקים. Right, where is that? In Shabbat Chav Gimel Amud Bet. הרגיל בנר חנוכה ונר שבת הביאן לבנים לתלמיד. Careful about 2 types of candles, which is candle of Shabbat and candle of Chanuka. You have children that are Torah scholars. Okay. Here's Rashi, Mishum Dirtiv. Rashi explains that the reason is because it says in the pasuk, in the verse in Proverbs, Ki ner mitzvah v'torah or. It says, right, that the mitzvah is a candle and the Torah is a light. Al yedei ner mitzvah shel Shabbat v'Chanukah ba or Torah. So therefore, right, when you do the candle of the holidays, these mitzvot, which are Shabbat and Chanukah, so what happens is that you have the or of Torah, the light of Torah, will come and stay with you. Pretty good deal. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. Says Shulchan Aruch, צריך להיזהר מאוד בהדלקת הנרות חנוכה. You have to be very careful about lighting candles of Hanukkah. אפילו אני המתפרנס מן הצדקה. Even if a person is poor and he's living off charity, right? שואל או מוכר כסותו. So he should even like borrow, money for this, or sell his clothing, ולוקח שמן להדליק, and buy oil to light the candles. So there you go, right? You see that when it comes to this mitzvah, it's a very precious mitzvah. Okay, beautiful. So let's go back to back to the Beit Yosef. So it says here, how many candles do we light? Sham Tanu Ramanan Mitzvat Ner Chanukah Ner Ish Ubeto Me'adrin Ner Lechol Echad Ve'echad. So there's different kind of versions of this mitzvah, the way it's done. In the Gemara Shabbat, Kaf Aleph Amud Bet, it says there, the Rabbi said the Braita. There's different versions of it. So which version are we talking about? The basic mitzvah, it says there in the Gemara, that each household has to have at least one candle every night. This is the basic, minimal mitzvah. And if you're going to be, stringent about it, then there's also a higher level that you can do. That each person will get one candle. And then if you want to go even higher, right, even more stringent, what you do is, according to Bet Shammai, the first day you're going to light one candle, first night. I'm sorry. So according to Bet Shammai, it's the opposite, right? Like you do a countdown. So the first night is going to be 8, and then the next night 7, etc., etc. That's how it goes according to Bet Shammai. But what about Bet Hillel? How does he paskin? So Bet Hillel says, Yom Rishon Madlik Echad, the other way, right? You go up, right? The first night 1, and then you start adding 1 each night. So they're just like the opposite, right? Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel here. Interesting. So anyway, Tamayu the Bet Shammai. So what's the reason of Bet Shammai that you do like a countdown? Can I get Priya Chag? So this corresponds to the fruits of the holiday. Enami can I get Yamim Anichnasim? Alternatively, it's the days which are coming in. But Tamayu, the Bet Hillel. What about Bet Hillel? What's their reasoning? Can I get Yamim Yotzim? It corresponds to the days which are still left over. And also because we go up in the sanctity and don't go down in sanctity. According to Rambam, that he holds that the highest level is what? מן המהדרין עבדי נמי הידור ראשון, דהיינו נר לכל אחד ואחד. So according to Rambam, it seems like you do also the second level, which is also the part of the higher level. So what does that mean? You do the second level, which is that each person will have also one candle, his own personal candle. So therefore, if you have like 10 household members on the first night, they're going to have 10 candles there. And then the second night, you're going to have 20 candles, right? And then third night, 30 candles. But that's according to Rambam. But according to Tosfot, that they wrote differently, not like the Rambam, that they're talking about Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai, it's talking about a candle for each person. There's more stringency there when there's a recognition that he is adding more, or he's subtracting, according to Bet Shammai. Right? The days which already past or they're coming up. Okay. But if he's going to do right a candle for each person, then if he adds, there won't be any recognition. There is to say that there are some people b'bait adkan. So again, right, the last few words that I just read. Again, even if he's going to add, there's not going to be any recognition. Because some people are going to think, oh, well, that's the amount of people in the household. So that's not really a recognition regarding the additional days. So says Bet Yosef, the custom seems to be that the first night, each one does one. Tosfot is saying this. I'm sorry. Yeah, each one does one person per one candle per person. But Bet Yosef says the custom is that we add one candle every night. So we start off with one and keep on adding each night until the last night. There's going to be 8 candles. Even if you have a lot of household members, they don't do more than that. So therefore, they're doing like Tosfot. Seems like the custom is about Tosfot. Because if it was like the Rambam, Lama enam osim kemehadrim lamiyadrin. Why don't they do like each person does his own? So what's the trick here? What is he trying to say? Bottom line is like this, right? That there's 2 different opinions here we saw, which is Rambam and Tosfot. So I'm not talking about Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, right? Because there, everybody knows the halacha is like Bet Hillel. So there's no question over there. But what about the Rambam and the Tosfot? What goes on? What's going on with that? So it seems like the Bet Yosef is saying that the custom is like the Tosfot and not like the Rambam. So what does that mean? That the custom that he saw, the Bet Yosef, was that they were doing one candle per household and adding each night, right? As opposed to the other custom, which is Rambam, which is like doing, per person each night. So that's more like the Ashkenazi custom. So here the Ashkenazim do more like the Rambam, and the Sephardim do more like Tosfot, which is usually the opposite way, but here it's the opposite, whatever. So that's the way it is. We're going to see in the Ramah, right, that he's going to mention there that the Ashkenazim pretty much do like the Rambam. So what does that mean? That they do per member of the household. So what does that mean? Each child will light his own menorah, according to the Ashkenazi custom, right? According to Sephardi custom, the head of the household will light for everybody. And that will be enough there, right? But the truth is, one obvious question comes up, right? What about the question about the ladies? So what does that mean? If a person is married, right, let's say. So according to Ashkenazi custom, does it mean that his wife should light a separate menorah for herself? So the answer is no. The wives don't light separately because the wife and husband are considered to be like one unit. Ishtok gufo. So when we say that each household member lights separately, what we're talking about is the children, not the wife, because the wife is the one with the husband. Okay, that's the story there. If you have any questions, let me know.
Is there a preference on whether it's the wife or the husband, or does it not matter?
Yes, there is a preference. If it's possible, it should be the husband, since he's the head of the household. So what does that mean? When it comes to mitzvot, right? The husband runs the show, right? Who makes a kiddush? The wife or the husband, right? So the same thing with the Chanuka candles. You know what I mean? Just like when it comes to kiddush, the husband is the head of the household. Same thing with all the mitzvot, basically, except the candles for Shabbat right there. That's for the women. That mitzvah. That's something else.
It doesn't follow like the candles for Shabbat then.
I'm sorry. What was that again?
It doesn't follow the same logic as the Shabbat candles then.
Yeah, the reason is because that mitzvah, is especially for the women, candle lighting, since it's coming to correct the sin of Chava, right? That she caused her husband to sin. So that's the reason why we have the opposite when it comes to that. So we always, when it comes to the Shabbos candles, right, Shabbat candles, we always prefer the lady should do it. Unless the lady's not there, so forth and so on, right? That's a different story, right? Or the lady, is in the shower or whatever. She's running late, so she tells her husband, okay, can you do me a favor, light my candle for me, I'm in the shower, I won't be out for another 10 minutes. So, okay, so husband will go and do it for her. But in a regular case, though, we don't want that, right? We want the women to do it. So that's the way it is, Okay, good. So, but when it comes to generally in mitzvot, I remember I had one friend who used to come to my classes, when we were doing in the shul. So he asked me a funny question. I mean, for him it wasn't funny. But I laughed at him when he asked me the question. He says, Rabbi, he says, what we do in my house is that like when it comes to like Hanukkah candles or kiddush, we take turns in the family. Like one night the husband does it, one night the wife, and one night the son does it, and the daughter. Right? I told him, I said, what do you think? It's round robin? What musical chairs? It doesn't go like that. He was surprised when I told him that. He thought it was a good thing to do. But I said, no, you don't take turns when it comes to mitzvot. The head of the household in general should do the mitzvot. You know what I mean? That's the way it should be. Unless, as we said, right, there's some reason that he can't do it. So then the wife can take over, take charge, no problem, right? Right? That's the way it goes. Okay, we're going to talk more about that, by the way, because there are, a lot of situations where sometimes the wife has to do it. There's no choice. You know what I mean? So that's okay. We have no problem with that. But when there is a choice, when the husband is home, at a reasonable hour, and he's there, there's no reason for the wife to do it. In fact, the Gemara says, right, that a man who lets his wife, do the kiddush at home, It's like he gets a curse on that, he gets cursed. Why are you giving your kiddush to the wife? What? You don't want to do the mitzvot that are meant for you, Take charge and, do your job. I mean, what are you appointing all kinds of emissaries for? I mean, what's with that, right? It's not the proper thing to do.
What if he doesn't know how?
Well, I guess maybe, the wife should look for a different husband. But I'm joking, but it has a little bit of truth in there. But what I mean. But if obviously if he doesn't know, he doesn't know. I mean, there's no choice. But he should learn. What I mean? That's the whole thing, right? He should learn it.
Kavod Harav, I have a
Don't just
question.
say, oh, I don't know. Okay, so if you don't know, next week you should know already. By next week, you should already know. This week, okay, we have an excuse, but next week there's no excuses anymore. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kavod, so the husband lights the candles, and yet the woman for the 30 minutes she's not supposed to do any chores. So what does she do?
Exactly. What does she do?
What's the kavanah then?
Well, she could do a lot of things. She could read Tehillim. She could talk with her friend on the phone. Whatever, whatever she wants to do.
On the phone while the candles are being lit? No.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
can talk on the phone. There's no problem. Because talking
Oh.
on the phone is not really like a labor. It's not.
But
It's a mouth labor. It's lots
well,
of mouth movement there.
shouldn't you be there for the mitzvah, meaning like presently in the mitzvah, or no, as a woman?
Yeah, you can be there in the room, and talk with your friend, no problem, but you're not really obligated to be there in the room. But if you want to be there and see the candles, so you can do both, whatever, whatever makes you happy, whatever it is, right?
Thank
You
you.
can watch a lecture, go to my Facebook page, watch a lecture, during the candle lighting. You can do that.
Thank you.
Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. Whatever makes you happy, Okay. So yeah, let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. Just don't do labor. So when we say labor, what we're talking about is like one of the 39 labors of Shabbat, something like that, right?
House chores, yeah?
House chores is not really a labor, because I mean we do house chores also on Shabbat, We wash dishes, well, all kinds of things we do on Shabbat.
Mm.
So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
Okay.
about like cooking, as we said, like doing laundry, These are like labors of Shabbat, These are like the 39 labors.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to Shulchan Aruch. What's going on here? Okay, so it says in Shulchan Aruch, Kama nerot madlik, right? How many candles do we light, right? Balayla rishon madlik echad. So first night you'd light one candle. This is the halacha, right? We saw all the opinions there. Mikan ve'elach mosif ve'olech echad kol layla. So then we add each one, right? Each night one more. Ad shebelel acharon yu b'shmona. So until the eighth night, which is gonna be 8 candles there. Even if you have many household members, big family, right? Lo yadliku yoter. Don't do more than 8, right? That's already enough. So what does that mean? He's trying to tell you, don't do like the Rambam, right? Who says you should do one for each household, household member. Because he paskins like the Tosfot here, the Shulchan Aruch. But here comes the Rama, right? It brings the Rambam. So some say that, who's that? The Rambam, right? That each family member should do his own. So that's a custom, right, of the Ashkenazim. That's why when you go to their house, right, there's like 8 menorahs going on there, 10 menorahs, or 20, depending on the size of the family, right? each one has his little corner there somewhere, where he lights. They're all scattered all over the house, right? That's the way Ashkenazi family looks on Hanukkah. But the Sfardim, what happens, right? The big daddy, the big papa, stands in front of the window and lights for everybody. Everybody stands there and listens, and answers amen, right? That's the way it is with that's the way it is with the Sfardim.
Just see
Okay.
the yeshiva on Thursday. I'll have to try and take some pictures because every boy sets up his own Hanukkah. And so like by about like the sixth night, you can actually feel the heat going down the hallway.
Right, yes. What they do in the yeshiva, no matter what kind of, no matter, yeah, well, I don't know exactly in the yeshiva, like each bacher lights, like what they do in the Ashkenazi yeshivot, if I'm not mistaken, is that they have like one room where, they have like, 200 menorahs going on there, and each boy lights his own,
In ours, it's like the main foyer or whatever, like the hallways.
Right,
So
exactly. The hallway,
that's where they're
yeah.
all lighting, but my classroom is all the way down the hall, and as soon as they all light, you can the temperature increases by like 5 degrees.
Yes, a lot of light, a lot of heat. So that's the way it is, But there are some also yeshivot, where the boys are already like bigger, like more older guys. So what they do is like each room, like each dorm has its own lighting. So let's say you got like two or three boys in a dorm, So they all get together in the dorm, and each dorm has its own does their own lighting. There's also all kinds of things like that, all kinds of variations on that. As we said, right, in the Ashkenazim, like even if you have a dorm, each boy will probably, like light his own menorah, So a lot of candles being used up there. No question about it. Okay, so yeah. So that's the way it goes. And as we said, so we're going out in the Ramah here. Let's see what the Ramah says. ויזהרו ליתן כל אחד ואחד מנרותיו במקום מיוחד כדי שיהיה נעקר כמה נרות מדליקים, right? So he says, right, because with the Ashkenazim, they have so many menorahs going on. So you got to be careful about one thing, right? Says the Ramah, which is that, everybody should have like a different area to light, because otherwise you get confused. You don't even know how many candles they're lighting anymore, like what night are we? What night is this? Is this like the 30th night or what? What like what? You can't figure it out because all the candles are together. So therefore, the proper thing to do with the Ashkenazim, since everybody has their own little menorah, personal menorah, that each one should have a little corner somewhere, and this way, right, you don't get confused with the number. Yeah. Okay, very good. That's the Ramah. Let's go back to the Beit Yosef here, or the tour, whatever it is. Yeah, maybe we can do one more. Let's see. So let's read the tour here. Interesting, variant here. מי שיש לו בית פיאות, נר שיש לו בבית פיאות, עולה בשביל שניים. So the thing is like this, right? Some candles that, there are some candles like this. You don't find them so much today, but like in the old days, this was pretty common. That they have like one candle has two like two wicks, two mouths. So you're lighting like two areas there. It's like one big candle which is divided up into two areas. So the question is, when you light something like that, what number are we talking about, right? In terms of the halacha. So he says, right, that it counts as two, because since there's two different wicks and two different areas, they're not together in one place. So therefore they don't touch each other. So therefore they count as two candles, right? That's what he's trying to say. Since they look like two. Okay. So he says, when does that apply? Kegon milel echad ve'elach, right? For instance, let's say, right, the second night, you had one of these, multiple candles, right? The one candle, which is really two. So it's gonna count as two. So that'll be enough for you for that night, for the second night. That's an example, right? So what about if you take a bowl, right? It says, "Ve'im mile, kiara shemen ve'kifa petilot." What about if you took a bowl and you filled it up with wicks, right? Like all over. Let's say you got like 20 wicks there, whatever. I don't know. You don't need 20, but let's say you got eight. Okay. So does that mean you have eight candles or does that mean you have one? That's the question, right? Each wick is separate. It says, right, im kafa alea kli kol petila ole b'shvil ner echad. So it depends, he says, right? Lo kafa alea kli afilu ner echad en ole. Oh. So he says, right, that depends how you did it. If you cover it on top with some kind of a lid, right, then it's going to count as one candle because it looks like it's one, it looks like one unit because that lid on top is like, uniting them, kind of making them look like together. But he says, but if you don't cover it at all, just you have wicks going on there, right there, he says, it doesn't even count as one. So again, right, let's cover that again. If you covered it with a lid, it counts as one candle. If you right, because they're like together in one place. If you did not cover it with a lid, even one candle you don't have. So says the Torah, what's the reason why? Because it's like a torch, you have like many wicks together, like touching. And this is the reason why, because the rabbis decreed you should light a candle and not a torch. So this is the reason why it doesn't count as even one. That's what he says. So then he brings the opinion of the Rosh right here. Kataba Daniel Rosh, he says, the Rosh says, מסתברא שלא ירחיק זה מזה עד כאצבע, אבל אם ירחיקם מזה לזה אצבע, שלא נעשה כמדורה, יצא. Right, so he says, but the Rosh says that if you distance the wicks at least like 2 centimeters, one finger, which is 2 centimeters, one from the other, then it will count because they don't touch each other and it's not like a torch. So says the Bet Yosef, the Torah, I'm sorry, but it seems to me, he says, he says, even if you distance them like that, as we mentioned, you shouldn't allow this, without covering with some kind of a lid. So he says, because even if you distance them, if the wicks are thick, the alav gadol and the flame is great, is good, big, even if it's more than a finger apart, they still combine anyway, they still touch each other. Okay, let's see the Bet Yosef a little bit here. So says Bet Yosef, starting what we read in the Torah, Sham Ner. So it says he brings a source for this, which is in the Gemara, Chaf Gimel Amud Bet. Ner sheyesh lo shte piyot, right? If you have a candle with 2 wicks, right, as we said, they're separate, but it's like one candle. They're separate wicks in separate areas. So that's going to be like 2 candles there. So that would mean, right, you could have 2 people lighting, with that or whatever. Rashi explains, if they're doing, mehadrin, stringency, right? To do two people, near lechol echad, doing candle for each person. V'Rabbeinu lo katav oleh l'shnei bnei adam. So then, why did the Torah here write that it counts for two people? Mipnei she'en anu osim ner lechol echad, because we don't do like for two people, candles. We only do for one, as we said, the head of the household, right? The echad shistarech ner ze le'alot l'shnei bnei adam. So then, why would we need two people to be lighting together? The katav she'oleh b'shvil shtei nerot. So he writes that it counts for two candles. Bezeu shkatav kegon, and that's what he wrote. Kegon melel rishon ve'elach, that from first night and onwards. Klamar the ilu belel rishon, because in the first night itself, lo mashkachat ladidan leitzach lekom shenayim. You don't need two candles on the first night because we only light one, right? For the head of the household, lights for everybody. So that's what the Beit Yosef is saying here. I think there's a little bit more to do, and then we'll see the Shulchan Aruch. So it says here in the Torah, "Ve'im hem dakot." If the candles are thin, afilu pachot mikevetzva, even if they're less than a finger away, sagi, that's good enough. Le'achi kaminan. That's why we say kefiat keli dehu milta de psika, because when you cover it with a lid, right, it's something which separates them. Umenicha al petach samuch l'rishut harabim. So where did he place it? Right. Okay, that's already something else. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll stop there.
Is he not counting the shamash?
Yeah, okay. We haven't gotten to the shamash yet, right? We'll get there. But it right, the shamash certainly does not count, right? It's just a spare.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's required, right?
It's required, as a safeguard. It's not really a part of the mitzvah.
Okay.
It's like a safeguard kind of thing. What is the purpose of the shamash? First of all, the purpose is that if we're going to get benefit from one of the candles, it should be the shamash, because it's mundane. It's not holy. It's not a mitzvah. So therefore, the rabbis said, put a shamash there. So just in case you go there and get benefit from the lights, personal benefit, the shamash will protect you, from getting benefit from the other candles, which are mitzvah. So this is one of the purposes of the shamash, to avoid the problem of benefiting from the candles. That's one thing. Okay. So anyway, let's see the Shulchan Aruch. It says here, ner sheyesh lo. That's why, by the way, technically speaking, let's say, since the shamash is not really part of the mitzvah, so therefore, if you're stringent, let's say, to light with olive oil, which is the best way to do it. But even then, the shamash doesn't really need to be from olive oil because it's not a part of the mitzvah. So therefore, if you want to use wax or paraffin for the shamash, it's more convenient for you because you're using it to light the other candles, right? Also. So therefore, the shamash doesn't need to be from olive oil. Since it's not really part of the mitzvah. It's just like a safeguard there. That's another thing, with the shamash, another purpose. The purpose is to use it to light the other candles. Not everybody does it that way, by the way. There's different approaches with that, but we'll talk about that later on. The whole issue with the shamash. But anyway, right, says the Shulchan Aruch here, ner sheyesh lo shte piot, the candle which has two wicks, right, two mouths, whatever. As we said, we're talking here about that they're in a separate area, right? One is on the left, one is on the right, so forth and so on. So they're not touching each other like whatsoever, right? That's what we're talking about. There's no connection, except that the oil is connected, right? Through the candle, the oil is connected somewhere there. But the candle itself is different, right? The wick. So anyway, right? Oleh lo b'shvil shnayim. So as we said, since they're in different areas and they don't touch each other and the flames don't touch, so therefore it counts as two candles, right? So therefore, if you're doing it the second night, that would do the job for you, right? That would be the two candles for you. It could also probably, be used for the shamash as well. Even though it's a little bit strange, we got to think about that, right? If it's the proper thing to do, but whatever. Anyway, the point is, right, that it counts as 2 candles. That's the bottom line. Okay, very good. I guess we'll stop there. B'ezrat Hashem. Thanks for coming tonight. We'll see you, B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow. Chazak Baruch. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. Have a great holiday. And we should see another victory, B'ezrat Hashem, miraculous victory for the Jewish people. Just like we had on Chanuka, we should see it this year as well, B'ezrat Hashem. And our enemies should fade away, pass away from the world. Amen, amen.
Thank you, Kavod.
Thank
Chazak
you.
Baruch.